Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, and today we're going to be looking at the Business Leaders Customer Survival Guide. I'm Shanice Henry, the Editor-in-Chief of the CX Network. So, as I'm sure many of you would have experienced firsthand, the pressure and stress of today's turbulent environment seems to be intensifying customer needs. The baseline pillars for good CX, trustworthy, frictionless, and timely customer care, are more needed than ever. But delivering to these needs has been no easy task in 2020, especially at the onset of the pandemic. As businesses scrambled to understand new laws they had to meet and move contact centres to become virtual, a lot of call centres were overwhelmed with customer inquiries and at times bent into providing indifferent and cold experiences to panicked customers. For example, customers suffering eye-watering cold haul times only to be cut off by the provider at the end with no explanation. And now business performance rests in the hands of remote contact center agents. So to drive success, organizations must maintain clear contact with internal teams, suppliers, as well as customers. And this coordination is paramount because as brands around the world are becoming more comfortable with operating in the new normal, many are starting to notice that customer tolerance levels are starting to shrink regarding poor or slow service. And now many brands are asking themselves, how can we use customer signals and contextual data to become more predictive and proactive with the experiences we deliver, so that points of friction can be preempted and also the cost to serve can be lowered. So that's a quick brief on what we'll be looking at today. And today we're joined by a range of experts, which you'll spot on the panel on the right-hand side of your screens. And the experts are from Orange Business Services and Genesys today. So we have Gilles Talbot, Senior Principal Business Consultant at Genesys. We have Gianluca Salvanecci, Digital Customer Experience Sales Manager for Europe at Orange. We also have Valerie Scavina, VP of Global Strategic Alliances at Genesys, and we also have Jonas Vollengreen, Principal Consultant of Business Consulting and Innovation at Orange. And the panel of experts today are going to be sharing their observations on how brands have adapted in 2020 and the moves made by companies to survive in this landscape. So first off, let's take a look at our agenda for today's session. So after the welcome from me, we'll be moving on to look at some findings from a study conducted by Genesys and OBS, looking at survival CX strategies and how they have been shaped by the pandemic at hand this year. Then we'll be looking at a customer survival guide, so 4 tips for CX survival, and we'll be pausing to look at real-life customer examples, so brands using these strategies in action. Then we'll be wrapping up with our roundtable discussion, and this is where we'll be diving deeper and really picking apart these survival strategies. And here we'll have some interactive polls for you, the audience members, to get involved with, and then we'll also be addressing questions from audience members as well. So a quick heads up before we get started. As I mentioned, this is an interactive webinar. We want to hear from you, the audience members. So please do make sure you enter in any questions that you have in the chat boxes on your screens, which will be on the bottom left-hand side of your screens. And equally, for any technical issues you have, please write those in the same chat box, and a member of the CX Network team will get to you to troubleshoot your issue right away. And for your reference, all the widgets on your screen can be resized and dragged around, so you can arrange them however you would like. Okay, so with that, make sure you're sitting comfortably. First off, we have Gilles Talbot, Senior Business Principal Consultant at Genesys, and he's here to reveal some fascinating findings from a study commissioned recently by OBS and Genesys.
I think we can all agree that the last 6 months had a deep impact on every aspect of our everyday life. And as customer experience and customer service experts, Genesys and Orange wanted to know how customer services were impacted in those times. So we conducted a survey and asked 257 organizations how they managed the crisis and what the future looks like for them. And now I'm going to share some of the findings of the survey with you guys. The first one, 41% of organizations we surveyed were able to maintain their customer service through home office. It's not really a surprise because they didn't really have a choice. Agents could not go to the contact center, so they had to work from home. But what's interesting is how fast those organizations were able to move hundreds of agents sometimes to work from home. They had to adapt very fast to this situation. Our customer Decathlon, for instance, moved their contact center agent to home agent, but they did more. They were able to train 400 employees that were non-contact center agents to support the customer service. So they were able to extend the contact center activity using cloud technology. And the cloud technology thing is very interesting because cloud allowed this kind of agility. And that's because their contact center was in the cloud that Decathlon was able to so quickly move their contact center agent to home agents. And speaking of cloud, during the pandemic, Genesys launched an offer, a program that we call Rapid Response, allowing organization, customers, Genesys customers or non-Genesys customers, to start a contact center, a cloud contact center from scratch and get it up to speed in 48 hours. And of course, you can imagine that this program had a great success because organizations needed to get their contact center agents to work from home. So because of the pandemic, customer service has had to be done remotely. People were locked down, people had to stay at home. So if they wanted to interact with an organization, they can only do it remotely. And if we look at which channels they use for that, we can see that the main channel, the number one, was email. Usually when you do that kind of survey or on which channels customers use the most, usually phone still is number one. And the main reason why email was number one during the pandemic is because all customer services, regardless of the vertical, had to face huge amount of customer interaction. I was talking about Decathlon earlier. Decathlon had to face 20,000 customer interaction per day during the pandemic. They had up to 80 calls waiting in queues, where in normal time they have 5 calls waiting in the queue. So consumers, instead of spending long minutes, even hours in queues, would rather use a non-real-time channel like email, where they can send a question and get the answer when they're ready and read that answer when they're ready. And it kind of makes sense. And for me, it's kind of linked to the trend that we've seen in the last couple of years, where messaging apps were of interest for many customers as interaction channels, because it's non-real time. You don't have to wait in a queue. You just send a message on WhatsApp, for instance, and you can have the answer back, and you can read the answer when it's convenient for you. What will be interesting, though, is look at those same KPIs, those same trends and customer preferences in terms of channels when we go back to a more normal situation. And speaking of the future, the organization we surveyed are quite optimistic about the future. They don't worry that much, and it's a good thing. And when it comes to customer service and customer experience, 73% of them believe that budget related to CX will remain the same or increase. What it shows is that even in those times, even in this very difficult context, customer experience is still a priority for many organizations. And it's a priority because they know that they need to invest in CX to drive customer loyalty. Because it's not because of the crisis. The crisis did not change that. You still have to drive your customer loyalty. And one way to drive customer loyalty is to invest. You need to invest in your digital transformation. You need to invest in personalization. Provide a more personalized service to your customers. And that's still true. That's still a reality. And If we look at the next investments our respondents are planning to do in the next couple of months, those investments are related to what I said earlier. Two main things: personalization. We can see that improving the IVR and connecting the CRM to the contact center technology will allow to bring more personalization. If when your customer calls you, you can recognize him because your IVR is connected to your CRM, you can tailor your IVR for your customer. You can provide a dynamic IVR that can change the menu to adapt to the customer's profile, to adapt to the customer's context. Artificial intelligence will drive more efficiency, will bring automation, will allow you to automate the processes, will allow organization to automate the contact channels. The idea is to be, again, is to be more efficient to bring faster answers to the customers, really to meet their expectation and to make them happy. And if you make your customer happy, you are going to make your customer loyal. So organizations know that they still need to invest in customer service, in customer experience. They still know that they need to drive change when it comes to customer experience. But one of the things that was interesting in that survey is to realize that all of those organizations know that the change does not come easily. They know that if they want to drive change, if they want to improve customer experience, it will take time and they will have to face some obstacles. And funny thing when we look at those obstacles is that budget, that we usually think is the main problem when an organization wants to transform, only comes in fourth position. The main obstacle an organization has to face is the organization. Because if you want to really focus on customer experience, if you really want to change the way you serve your customers, you need to change your mindset. And that's where the resistance to change can be an issue. And the other thing is you need to look at things from the customer's standpoint, not from your internal processes and internal organization standpoint. And that's why silos in organization can be an issue. And one way to solve that is really move to a customer-centric approach. When you move to a customer-centric approach, you start looking at customer journey, you start trying to understand customer journey and improve customer journey. And most of the time, a customer journey involves many different departments in the organization, many different processes. And focusing on improving customer journey will get everyone to work together, breaking down the silo and making you more efficient in driving and improving customer experience. As a conclusion, I would say that today more than ever, the technology supporting customer service and customer experience has to allow organizations to be more flexible. It has to help them adapt to changing customers' behavior and expectation, whether it's adding new interaction channels or facing an unexpected situation. Three key pieces of technology that can support that vision are omnichannel, artificial intelligence, and cloud. Omnichannel interaction will create the data you need as an organization to feed your artificial intelligence, your AI, to drive more personalization and automation. And the cloud will allow you to get up to speed very fast and really to adapt and drive time to market. And I think with those three key ingredients, you can provide the great experience that your customers expect when you run an organization. Thank you very much for your time.
Great stuff. Great insights there from Gilles. As I'm sure a lot of you in the audience would have seen yourselves, huge spikes of customer interactions caused by the pandemic has really pushed brands to transform and optimize journeys. I'm personally very encouraged by some of the findings there around the optimism towards CX investments going up And as I mentioned, a few brands that I've been interacting with have been looking at how they could administer more predictive customer care, sort of in relation to what Gilles was saying there in regards to routing customers to agents they've interacted to and bonded with before, or agents that have the skills best placed to the inquiry that they have at hand. So next up, we have Gianluca Salvanecci, Digital Customer Experience Sales Manager for Europe at Orange, here to talk to us today, along with Valerie Scavina, VP of Global Strategic Alliances at Genesys, and Jonas Vallengreen, Principal Consultant of Business Consulting and Innovation at Orange. So here we're going to be taking a look at some real-life examples of how brands have driven customer loyalty in 2020, thanks to 4 CX tips for survival. Over to you, Gianluca.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. And I will start where Jill left with some percentage, because you can see that 70% of decision makers are putting CX, customer experience, at the center of their strategy. And customer experience has been always important for every organization, but COVID-19 obliged the company to develop and adapt new consumption model. The focus now of this company is on digital, as Jill said, and cloud native platform, because these solutions are able to guarantee continuity, new business model, and agile agent interaction, as we will see later. I believe that what about 4 priority? What do you think are your top priority in regard to customer experience transformation? Is it workforce management? Are you prepared to manage remote agents working from home, able to answer different channels and properly skilled? Or your priority is more related to digital initiatives like omnichannel, bot, artificial intelligence, or predictive engagement? Maybe that one of your priorities, as we said, to move to cloud because you want to gain flexibility, resiliency, and having always a state-of-the-art platform always updated. Or maybe your priority is changing technology and process. You need, first of all, to remove silos from your business and to connect sales, marketing, customer support operation in one seamless wall. Also, another important aspect is the master of data and analytics that is really essential in creating context for your customer. Thinking to study buying habit, shopping history, lifestyle, that should be analyzed in relation to a life event like the COVID, time of the year, weather, or anything that can be relevant. And again, if you think related to emergency situation, company must be ready to implement contingency plan and operational resilience. Must be prepared to address either volume of requests using AI virtual assistants or process automation to process easily tasks without human interaction. There is the need to prevent a drop-off in operation and performance. How you can make sure agent can access back office resources using proper collaboration tools. It is also key to train agents to better comply with customer requirements. And last but not least, there is need to implement the possibility of remote working using, first of all, the existing collaboration and telephony infrastructure, but also implementing the proper omnichannel routing strategy to connect the customer with the best agent to fulfill his requirement. And the other thing is that we are speaking about contact center, but this is not an isolated tools in your customer experience strategy. You must merge customer-facing communication with your entire digital ecosystem. On one side, probably you already have all the tools to engage with customer. Maybe you are using social, you are using mail, you are using voice, you develop specific app. So you just need to use them in a more efficient way. For example, social and automated bots can shift customer to self-service tool and online store. On the other side, it is important getting customer to the right agent. This can be performed with through end-to-end integration of core routing, smart routing, and process automation. For example, you can use customer data and purchase history to power your process automation. And now this is one of my most relevant part of the presentation because it's a customer history. I'm speaking about one of the biggest worldwide cruise company. And I tell you that their challenge were season fluctuation because cruise are relevant during summer and Christmas period. They were studying a new go-to-market model that should be quick and agile, and they were thinking to a different way to sell. They were realizing that 40% of their selling was coming from contact center and online sales. And the implementation when we met them was an on-premise one, hosted on an external data center and using a third-party network. This was bringing them a quality issue with voice and difficulties to implement new channel, and it was impossible for them to have a real end-to-end monitoring. So they rethought together with Orange and Genesys to their selling strategy, replacing the legacy environment with a cloud one. We decided to host the cloud solution in Germany, and we were able immediately and quickly to add omni-channel capabilities. And because of the fact, as Orange, we were supplying both the cloud platform and the voice and network infrastructure, we were able to give them really end-to-end SLA on voice, guaranteeing the best quality. Another important part of their trip was the integration with their existing CRM and the data analytics. That was really key to implement the contact center of the future. I would like now to hand over to Jonas for the next part.
Thank you, Gianluca. So what you're seeing right now can be perceived sort of as a maturity scale of your contact engagement or your contact centers, if you like. And on the very left, you have a voice-only kind of contact center. And on the very right, you have someone who's using automation and analytics in order to understand the customer's context and to work more effectively with internal the organization. The fact is that the majority of the organizations or companies that we're working with today, they find themselves sort of in between operating and performing, which basically means that there's some way to go in either direction. And what needs to be said is that not everyone is going to be following the same journey. Everyone has their own reasons why they want to use more automation, why they want to get to more insights. So let's have a look at one of those scenarios, for instance. This here is a leading French organization within health insurance, and they had a situation which was that they'd been buying a couple of companies, and through these acquisitions, they've been getting a lot of historical technology along with it and non-performing contact centers, which made it difficult for them to operate in a efficient manner across this estate with their agents. So they were in a situation where they needed to transform quite quickly. on a larger estate. And to do that, one of the obvious benefits is then going to the cloud, because you have the agility, you can deploy it very, very quickly. What they also wanted to do in this case was that they wanted to improve their conversion rates of sales. And as and when more clients move over to digital channels, as was said earlier in the report, there's a lot of insights to be had. So basically what we applied here was to look at the Genesys predictive engagement platform, which allowed us to get insights on those customers' journeys and become relevant to the client where they particularly were. And by doing that, you could reach out to the client with insights and understanding their actual needs, and then being able to sell to them what they actually required in their situation. Now, how do you do that transformation? Best practice is that in order to make any kind of long-term decisions or even short-term decisions, you need to understand where it is that you want to go. So the way that we work is that we look at, together with our clients, design a vision of what a great customer experience is. So this is about looking at what's possible, about the context of our client, their industry, and seeing, okay, where is it that we want to go? And basically from that vision, we can then work backwards to see how do we get technologies in place to leverage those to achieve that vision. So that's how you go from vision to designing a blueprint, which is all relevant to your business context. Handing over to Valerie.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, I think it's quite important from a customer perspective to understand that what we are presenting here is Genesys technology, but also OBS as a Genesys partner. So as a Global Alliance VP, what I can say is we have been working with Orange and OBS over the last 25 years. OBS is a gold tier partner, which means the excellence in the delivery, in the support, and in the business consultancy cycle to recommend you what is the best CX experience for you to deploy. We have above more than 35 worldwide customers, very agile, ready to deliver in a multi-country, multinational environment, which is very valid right now that we are global. We have about 35,000 licensed Genesys worldwide maintained. We have some common development and OBS as an API full developed team. And of course, there is a total management of the cloud deployment mode, but also hybrid and multi-cloud if you want to mix with premise and cloud, if you want to add multi-cloud approach into your own strategy. Overall, what we are also following is a value of having a 24/24 follow-up and services, a follow-the-sun approach, where Orange is able to articulate some competence center in every continent. Business continuity, resiliency is part of the global SLA that OBS is able to deliver to you at a global level with one single contact. And of course, as it has been explained by Jonas, the service cycle from consulting, design, build, and run is part of the overall experience you can have between Orange and OBS. In a nutshell, it's a global gold partner able to deliver in this world of COVID pandemic, new consumption of CX, the right advice, the right recommendation, and the right support. Having said that, fully aware that being an SI, but even more being a telco, can give you additional services, additional product bundle that Gianluca is going to cover right now. Gianluca?
Thank you, Valerie. Great introduction to my speech, because the purpose is to explain you what can a partnership between a system integrator like Orange and a platform provider or contact center provider like Genesys can bring to you. And you can see in this slide that in the center there is the Genesys platform that, as Valerie was saying, can be on cloud, can be on premise, can be mixed. But around that, and of course, Genesys is the leader in the market. You can leverage on all the functionality that are deployed week by week and immediately available in case you go on the cloud solution. But on the other side, what we can do, we can provide you an end-to-end solution because we have a worldwide deployed infrastructure able to collect and distribute voice and data, and that is fully integrated with the digital and state-of-the-art cloud and on-premise platform of Genesys. On top of that, because we are really an international system integrator, we can implement and provide you the solution in every part of the world, solving for you also the complexity that are present in some country due to regulatory. Just think about Brazil or India. And last but not least, we are able, because being a gold partner means to have a full team of trained people. We are able to train your team. We are able to train your trainer. We are able to fully manage the end-to-end solution, bringing you any further deployment you would need. And last but not least, since the beginning of the trip, we are able to consult you, to understand your business driven, to understand the need of your customer, and to drive you in the transformation of your customer experience. I would now, what we can offer you, and I will ask Jonas to help me. First of all, we are immediately able to offer a free consultancy package. Jonas, maybe you can explain what there is in this offer?
Sure, I can do that. So what it is that we can share with you is our insights from the market, so basically the benchmark of the industry of what is possible in terms of technology innovation. But not only that, what it is that we do is that we look at it from two angles. One of them is looking at the external angle. How is it that I can approach clients differently, and why would I want to do that in different kinds of business aspects? So from the business process, how can I use automation in terms of enhancing the way that I'm working, and also how I'm perceived by the market. And the other end is looking at the more operational side. What are the best practices in terms of operating contact centers in the IT environment, and what are those pitfalls that you want to avoid? So what we do is that we do that over a 2-hour sort of workshop setting together with you, so that you can have those insights and ask us those questions. Gianluca.
Yes. Thank you, Jonas. So please consider the fact that you can engage us to have this 2-hour free package consulting, but we can also benefit from some special program of Genesys, like what they call Experience Cloud Now, that would permit you not to pay in case you decide to migrate from one platform to the Genesys Cloud. The cloud fee will be not charged to you until your maintenance contract expires. This would avoid the usual problem of the double bubble billing. Okay, I'm back.
Great stuff. Brilliant. Thanks, Gianluca. Very interesting. I think with the insights that you were just mentioning there, it's so obvious that having the right technology and the right expertise really is crucial to making sure that any brand has the architecture that they need to deliver loyalty-winning experiences for customers. And that offer you mentioned at the end is a great way to explore the capabilities that you guys can offer. So audience members, definitely check that out. Now let's roll straight into our roundtable discussion. So as I mentioned, this is the time where audience members, we've got, you can get in on the action here too. We've got a couple of poll questions to start us off with for you guys to sink your teeth into. Then we will be answering questions from you, the audience members. So please do get creative, send in your thoughts, questions, any fears, concerns, whatever it may be. Let's get the conversation going. Let us know what's on your mind. Do make the most of having the panel's expertise at your fingertips today. So we will get to those questions after we have taken a look at the poll questions. So let's dive in with question number 1. So question is, in this new norm, are you prepared to engage digitally with your customers? So would you say that you can only through web chat? Have you deployed bots and automation? Unfortunately, are you only using voice as the channel of option there? Or would you say we have accelerated our sales strategy with online services? So please do select the answer that most relates to you or that you most identify with. And do also make sure you click that all-important submit button, because unless you click that, we won't actually receive your answers. So in this new norm, are you prepared to engage digitally with your customers? I'd be quite surprised here if we had, sort of voice only as the only option, but or as the main winning answer. But as we mentioned in the session earlier on, that is the first step to kind of progressing and being a bit more sophisticated in how you engage with customers. Bots and automation, of course, when implemented correctly, they have significant business benefits, especially when managing inquiry influxes, as bots can rapidly respond to large volumes of customers simultaneously, which shrinks the strain on human agents. And I've heard in some cases can reduce cost to serve levels by as much as 30%. Also, they allow you to administer customer care outside of standard business hours. So they allow, customers, if they've come home from work and they want to troubleshoot an issue with their Wi-Fi, they can speak to their provider if they need to. But if designed incorrectly, chatbots can become an expensive distraction. So it's really important to approach those with a very customer-centric viewpoint. So we'll give you a couple more seconds to just put in your answers there. Make sure that you do click the submit button as well, so that we get your answers through. I can see a few points are filtering through here. So I'll give you a couple more seconds and then we'll progress through to the answers. Okay, let's take a look at our answers here. Right, okay, so in the new norm, are you prepared to engage digitally with your customers? The winning answer here is only through web chat, closely followed by voice only. And then a group of people have also said that they've accelerated sales strategy with online services. So, Jonas, I hear that, in your capacity at OBS, you're working with a number of multinational companies. This year, I'm sure you've seen a huge shift in the CX approach. Do the results match your observations as of late?
Well, I think it's what's really interesting here is that maybe there's an opportunity to find real improvements, which basically means the upside for the business is that it can only be better. What it is that we see today is like you were saying a little bit earlier, is that there's a big drive to get onto digital. And not long ago, we were talking about the experience of adding, say, augmented reality in your retail stores, and you would have showrooms, etc. But through this crisis that we're seeing now is maybe we need to shift even further and say that digital is first. And if that is the case, that digital is first, we need to be applying more channels of how it is that we reach out to clients. And we need to be relevant to them. And we need to get those insights to become relevant. So maybe that's an opportunity to really prioritize that first.
Absolutely. I remember a couple of years back that there was a real push towards being digital first, but it was more to do with companies being kind of enamored with a shiny new tool, and we want to implement this. But I think you're right. Now it's being digital first because that's what's suiting the customers, and being customer centric is the main key there. And the word you mentioned there, relevant, is being relevant to customers, meeting them where they are in moments that matter to them. Absolutely. So Valerie, let's get your perspective on this. Are you surprised by the poll results that we've got here?
No, I mean, it's quite relevant versus the actual situation. But as said, there's a potential because, omnichannel and digital is a way to high loyalty with your customer, to react quicker, but also to collect data. And we know data and knowledge about our customer will allow personalization and will allow to use AI and predictive engagement to be able to anticipate what are the needs of the customer and to propose what is next. So it's a kind of virtual cycle. Coming digital omnichannel is a first step. You will better understand your prospect, your customer, and then you will be even higher level to total personalization with the AI. So yes, this is a very good base and a good foundation to go even in a more higher level of stage.
Completely. And as you mentioned there's so much power behind omni-channel models. I know that when I speak to a lot of customer experience practitioners, there are struggles that they encounter with achieving an omni-channel model, but like you said, it creates the best ecosystem for your customer. There's less friction, and you can be more personalized. It's going to improve, lifetime value as well. It's been shown that omni-channel customers spend more, so it's definitely something to aim for. So before we move on to the next question, I'm interested to hear your reaction to these findings, Gianluca. What advice would you have to the audience members answering the poll today? Oh, Gianluca, do we still have you with us?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I was saying that, despite the speech of my colleague, I'm a little bit surprised about the fact that no one had deployed bots and automation. And why I'm worried, because as Orange, we bought recently a company just taking care of artificial intelligence and bots. And what we are seeing, apart the joke on the market, is that a lot of companies, because of the fact the number of interaction are growing up, because people are more and more digital, more and more online, are thinking to develop this kind of solution to facilitate, first of all, the life of their internal agent, avoiding them repetitive and annoying answer, and on the second side, also to facilitate the life of the customer, giving them immediate answer. So this is a little bit me surprising, but on the other side, it means that there is still a great opportunity to develop this kind of solution for our customer.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, chatbots do have a great value to contribute to both the customer and the brand. It's just important to make sure that those models are designed from a customer first perspective, not business first. There's great cost elimination wins for bots and automation, but we've got to make sure that we gear it from a customer-centric point of view. So like you said, there's benefits for the customer and for the business. If a customer does need to escalate to speak to a human agent, they should have that option there. I've come across in my time many brands that do try to sort of hide staffed contact channels and say, here's the bot, that's all you kind of have. And if you want to speak to a human agent, you're going to have to fight to dig to find that contact channel. So it's about having that balance, making sure there is the opportunity to escalate to a human agent if needed. But you're right, chatbots can really shoulder a lot of the repetitive, mundane work that agents really, aren't sort of enamored by, and they can then go and work on more complex elements. So let's take a look at our next and final poll question before we go on to Q&A. Thank you to those of you that have entered in your questions so far. And please do keep entering in those so we can wrap up today's session with a good interactive discussion with some questions from you guys. So our question here is saying, with your workforce now being remote, how are you adapting to this change? Are you using online tools to empower them? Are you leaning towards the advantage of monitoring activity, allowing agents to answer multiple channels, or you've taken to the cloud to allow flexibility? So select your answer. Do make sure you click that submit button as well so that we can get your answers through. Otherwise, they won't actually distribute over to us. So click on your answer on the slide view in front of you, and then click the submit button just underneath, and then that will allow your answer to come through to us. So, as we were mentioning at the start, with the shift seen from the pandemic, some brands are operating with a hybrid model with, on-premises and virtual, but indeed, mostly due to social distancing mandates sort of favouring distance and remote services. And the majority of workforces are remote now, or certainly moving that way. And the real value will be when companies can capitalise on this model to shift and provide employees with more tools to save customers time and stress, because customers will always be thankful for that, and that will contribute to further loyalty. Also, allowing agents to answer multiple channels will help with providing a more seamless experience for users. Intelligent-based routing, as we mentioned, according to skill or rapport. You can turn up personalizations efforts for maybe customers of higher lifetime value, or customers that are about to renew, or maybe those that are flagged that they might be detracting if you're looking at sentiment and other things in your interaction. So do make sure you click your answers on the slide view, as we mentioned, and make sure you click that submit button as well, and then we'll discuss those answers and go through to Q&A. So I'll give you a couple more seconds, and then we will move across. Okay, so let's move across to the answers here. Okay, so we've got two answers that attracted the attention of our audience members today. So using online tools to empower workforces, and also taking to the cloud to allow flexibility, and of course more operational resilience, as we were mentioning. So Jonas, how do these findings compare to what you've witnessed in the market, and how companies have adapted to remote workforces, and how they're capitalizing on the opportunities?
I think this is really well aligned with what it is that we're seeing, because of the fact that you also saw from the report. We're now moving home a lot of the agents, and they're working from remote. We require to have those relevant tools. What we're also seeing is we need to manage the volumes that we have in a much better way, because there's now greater volumes, greater calls coming in, more channels that are producing noise, right, that we need to take care of. We require them to maybe use like chatbots, like Gianluca was talking about earlier, to offset some of those interactions that are not requiring the attention of a human. Also, I think with the greater volumes, we also need to make sure that human interaction is valued, and that we have a valuable interaction when that is happening. And one way of doing that is obviously going into RPA, for instance, looking at automating some of those existing processes, and then using analytics and insights, obviously, so that we can make choices both within the bot environments to say that this is the context for the bot, and the bot can answer the right thing, but also to make sure that when a human interaction is required, that it's actually steered to the right and relevant person for this answer for the client. So it's a lot of activity in this space that's happening.
And Valerie, what's your viewpoint on the spread of the results? Are there any missed opportunities that you can spot, like with the previous poll question, that audience members might want to consider at all?
I think the cloud, which allows flexibility, is a true statement. As Genesys, we have been seeing last 4 months a lot of physical contact center agents moving from home. We know the pandemic, and this is a little tactical in our context, will stay. So to choose a partner and a technology who is able to give you total flexibility, total access to remote, and with cloud to be done in a very short time frame with a good partner like OBS knowing the cloud, I mean, it's a key element, because we know that this pandemic stay for a bit, and we have to be organized to have our agents to be able to work everywhere in a protective way. So this is a true statement that any company needs to anticipate for his agents.
Absolutely. And Gianluca, before we move on to a couple of questions from the audience here for the last 10 minutes, do you have any words of wisdom for the audience members in regards to the results we've seen today here?
Yeah, you know, I'm a little bit out of the box because I'm not focusing on the positive answer. I mean, using the online tools and the cloud to adopt flexibility. But what I've noticed is that because some customers of ours are asking with the purpose of improve the capacity and the skill of the remote agent to are taking advantages of the monitoring. We have a customer, I remember a big coffee company that decided to launch a new product, registering all the conversation between agent and customer, and analyzing with analytics this conversation. They were able to understand the best way to sell the product and to deploy specific training to upskill their remote agent. So this was a very good example where on monitoring of activities together with cloud and online tools had permitted really an improvement of the agent performance. This is another message I would like to give.
Great stuff. So we've got around 8 minutes to go. Let's keep the conversation going and turn to look at some of the questions we've had coming in from the audience members. So thank you to those who've entered in their questions so far. But if you haven't done so already, please do enter any questions you've got for our speakers in the Q&A chat box on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Please remember to click that submit button to make sure that your question will come through to us so that we can have a good flowing discussion. Also, if we don't manage to get to your question now, we do have the ability to get back to you later, so don't let time put you off from entering in your question. Okay, so we've got a question here from Elaine, so she's saying, from start to finish, how long would it take to implement a digital CSM system in best and worst case scenario? What would the timing and success be impacted by?
Okay, I want to say that with cloud, we accelerated and using also what we call use cases. A contact center now can be implemented within 8 weeks once that there are, of course, no big personalization to make, and once that the functional requirements are clearly stated. So we have seen really the possibility, and it happened in the past, to implement within 8 weeks a full operational cloud contact center. I don't know if this answers to the questions.
Maybe there's another angle also to be had on this. So there's one side is obviously seeing the technology that needs to be put in place, and obviously, like any software or cloud platform, etc., these can be quickly deployed. I think the stumbling points are more within the process or the organization itself. First of all, I need to identify what kind of functions do I want to have in this platform, and then developing the journey for my client, which requires both an insight in terms of your customers or your workforce that you're managing in this case, and the other one is then applying technology to it. So when we work with strategy, for instance, We typically do these things over a period of 3 to 4 months, working with an organization to identify these journeys, the actual points that you require, and then transforming that to the technology putting in place. But then it's about, so how much automation do you want to put into place, and how much understanding do you want to use in terms of chatbots when you go into machine learning and so on. And there's obviously open platforms, and they're much more intelligent platforms, and that will generate quicker or better results. But then it's again associated to a little bit of budget, what it is that you want to be doing. So there's this project that you're looking at has multiple facets. There's technology on one side, there's process and organization, and then there's the implement of insights and the automation aspects to take care of. So it's difficult to say exactly what it is the time frame will look like, but it's something to take into consideration.
To complement what you said, Jonas, I think it's also depends of the emergency. During COVID crisis, for example, we have been deploying Ministry of Health, in Europe, for example, where it was urgent for the ministry to be able to handle all the questions about the COVID. And this is kind of urgency. We're able to deploy a cloud contact center in few days. So really it depends how you want to have your CX set up, what are your requirements, what is the sense of urgency, and then it's from few days to few weeks, really depending on your case. That's quite easy. And the easiness of using all our omni-channel makes the ROI quite quick, because as soon as you have a huge volume of interaction, the ROI using the digital is even higher. So the quicker you do, the higher volume you interact, as Gilles said, with the decathlon, which increased a lot of interaction per day on digital during the crisis, the more relevant your digital strategy is, and the more ROI you could have about the technology. So it could be very quick.
Absolutely, and that mapping process, as you guys were mentioning, of the touch points where the opportunities for automation, data sets, are they robust enough to field that in a credible way that's not going to do more harm than good? That's a really crucial influencer to success. Okay, so I think we've got time for 1 or 2 more questions before we close for today. Another question we've just had come in from an audience member is asking whether you've seen any fun ideas of motivating remote workforces with tools, with everybody sort of working in sporadic locations across the globe in exchange for being unified in an office or a unit space where, you can have a lot of opportunities to motivate and get team morale boost. Are there any fun ideas of doing that, but on a remote basis with different tools available?
It depends on many different tools to use in order to motivate an audience. I believe very much in gamification. So if you want to motivate a large force of people and also to drive change management, a good way of doing that is to go into creating sort of serious games where you challenge one another on either sales or improvement or things that you need to achieve. And that tends to have a very positive effect.
Yeah, I mean, this is key. Gamification is really high in our company and society, personal, but also on a professional side. So the gamification is really the way to be one team working together and improving the skills. And we can deliver that right now.
Absolutely. And I think those elements of any gamification that you can give in order to kind of direct how agents are placing their time, anything that they're working on. Of course, that can be the optimal element is if that is informed with data. If there's a certain area that seems to be triggering negative sentiments, getting that agent to then gamifying that area of that agent's training could be quite a fun way to get them to improve in a targeted way to help the end customer experience that's felt. Great. So I think we've got time for one more question. And it's in regards to the offer that you guys touched upon within the session earlier. So with the offer, you guys mentioned free licenses until the existing maintenance expires. This audience member wants to know what are the dates on this offer, and does it matter which platform that they're currently on?
So it's for the end of the year. So we are really proposing that to support our customer in a COVID environment, and it should be on a Genesys cloud, which is, as said, easy to deploy with all WFM omnichannel capability. Yes.
Great stuff. All right, so that is all we have time for today. Do you guys have any final remarks before we close off with our audience members?
I like what Gilles said. He said he's optimistic, and the survey showing that CX World is optimistic because we understand in this special time, CX is the heart of the loyalty and the empathy with the customer, and we really believe that all the CX budget will even stay flat or increase. So this team is really here to support and to help you to deliver the right CX and experience it in the right way. So optimistic is my closing word.
Fabulous. A great point for us to finish on. And I think the importance of being aligned to your customers, like you were mentioning, has only intensified with elements being changed and influenced by quite a disruptive environment 2020 has brought. But it's great that there is that optimism and there is that belief in the power of customer experience, because that's something a lot of companies have been battling to build for years now. So it would be such a shame if it was the opposite, but it's not. It's positive, and the future is bright. Great. So thank you so much for all of our panelists today. Thanks for your insights. A lot for us to walk away with and apply to our businesses. Again, thanks to audience members for your attention today. As I mentioned, if your question hasn't been addressed, we do have your details so we can reach out to you and make sure that you get an answer at a later point. Also, if you would like to rewatch this presentation or share it with colleagues that you think might not have been able to make it today, you'll receive a link to watch this session on demand shortly. So you'll be able to enjoy that in your own time. When you exit today, you'll be given a quick exit survey, just 2 questions. But of course, it will be great to hear what you thought and your reactions to some of the things we've discussed today. So thanks again to our experts. Thanks to everybody who's attended today. And that concludes today's presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.